All right. All right. So I just did the introduction and then I remembered to record. So any of you who are watching the playback, you didn't miss anything other than me saying greetings from the state office. All right. So our itinerary for this afternoon is the greeting you just heard. Then we have a special keynote speaker. She is an alum who participated in all of the activities that our association offered at the time she was in high school. We did not have film at the time. So, but I have a sneaking suspicion that had we offered that, she probably would have done that too. And then our WISDA board president, Dwayne Draper, is here. And then we'll just share a couple highlights that you can look forward to this season, particularly rules changes and other things like that. And then we'll open the floor for questions and answers. So I just wanted to take a moment as part of my greeting to all of you to share that one of the things that I've been working with the board on is a recruitment, retention, and resources initiative, or what we affectionately call the 3 Rs. And this is a special initiative to make sure that when we lose schools, and invariably we lose schools when there is turnover of educators, retirements, things like that, and people leave. So we want to really engage with school administrators. For small school districts, that will take the approach of superintendents. For larger school districts, that'll be building principals. We just want to make sure they're aware we're out there. We're here to help. When they identify a potential faculty advisor or community member to advise or coach any of our activities, we can assign them a mentor and just make sure that they feel supported. Likewise, with retention, we want to make sure that schools that are struggling for whatever reason, whether it is additional protocols and red tape, as it were, or things like that, that we can help with that and demystify that. For those of you who don't realize, WISDA is a member of the National Federation of State High School Associations, or NFHS, what is just called the National Federation of High Schools. And NFHS is the rulemaking and sanctioning organization for all high school athletics across the United States. So they carry a lot of clout where that's concerned. And many years ago, and we're lucky for this in terms of the clout that it offers, they decided to offer music, theater, speech, and debate as additional interscholastic contests that they support. So a lot of times we think of the word sport as meaning athletics, but we also have academic and performing arts sports. And it's important to acknowledge that because a number of school administrators, activities administrators, athletic directors, people in those kinds of roles may not always be aware of that. So just kind of underscoring that, I think, is an important first step for that. All right. So now it brings me great pleasure to introduce you to a former student of mine at Rufus King High School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Her name is Alicia Hovlandsleben. She is currently a Waukesha alderperson and Common Council president of the Waukesha Common Council. She participated in both middle and high school speech, debate, and theater. So, Alicia, it is my distinct privilege to welcome you to our community today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I figured for this, I would just kind of go over what I did do when I was in middle and high school and how that's kind of shaped my journey and what that's really meant for me in my life so far. So I started with speech when I was in 6th grade at Morse Middle School in Milwaukee. And then by 7th grade, I was interested in doing a little bit more. So that's when I joined the debate team as well. And I did a variety of different activities through that, including 4-minute informative. So starting off really basic. And then I did just kind of the standard middle school debate format. When I got to high school, Mr. Jacoby was my coach and really helped me figure out what parts of speech, debate, and theater were most interesting to me and would work well with my skill set. And so I found out that through that, I'm probably a little bit more impromptu, extemporaneous type speaker. And I think that's why I liked debate so much. Theater was not necessarily the journey that I took long term, but speech and debate definitely was the thing for me. But what I appreciated so much about what my school had to offer is that I had the opportunity to try everything, that I was able to really explore different opportunities and different options and find the things that fit best for myself. And through that, it's really shaped who I've become as an adult. So in college, when I was at Beloit College, also in Wisconsin, I got really interested in student government. And I think that that is very much has everything to do with my debate time, specifically with student Congress in high school. And again, thanks to Mr. Jacoby, 100%. It's probably, if you had asked me in sixth grade or even in eighth grade, if that's something I would have been interested in, I probably would have laughed at you. Even though I was always interested in politics, it just didn't seem like the kind of thing I'd be interested in. So fast forward, I worked on student government. I was president of my sorority, all of that. If you went back to sixth grade, I would have told you I was a shy kid. Now I'm a common council president in the seventh largest city in the state of Wisconsin. So it really is a journey, and it helps you along the way. So it's constantly there in the back of my mind, those skills that I learned when I was in middle and high school. So in college, like I said, I was very involved in a lot of different activities, especially in my sorority and in student government. I was also able to make a lot of connections while I was there. So I have these lifelong connections to a lot of different people who I continue to meet and encounter in my everyday life through a lot of the activities that I still do as an adult, including State Senator Mark Spreitzer and County Supervisor Jack Ekblad out of Milwaukee County. I've also, through them, met additional people in my political career, which has been great. But knowing people right out of college that I could connect with and stay in touch with to further my own journey was really helpful. And those are people I never would have met if I didn't have the confidence to walk into that room my freshman year of college and say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be part of this group. I'm going to make a difference on campus. So I 100% credit my experiences with Mr. Jacoby for that. Fast forward, I'm looking for a job after college, trying to figure things out. This is shortly after the 2008 recession, and I'm just trying to not live in my mom's house forever. So I got a job selling cars, which again requires a level of confidence that I definitely would not have had. It was very successful. I did that for a couple of years and was just kind of sick of giving up my weekends. So I started doing inside sales for a company, and now I work doing inside sales for a different company, but I've been there for 10 years. I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary. I've moved up within my career. And the reason that I moved up, and I'm sure a lot of the women, especially on this call, but I think this applies to everyone. If you don't ask for something, you're not going to get it. So I walked into my boss's office after 3 years and I said, I'd like a promotion, please. And he gave me one. And again, that's where that confidence level really comes in. But it's not just confidence, right? It's that being able to articulate exactly what you want in a concise and clear way. And that's, again, those skills that you learn when you're doing debate, when you're doing speech, when you're doing theater. Those are the things that are going to push a student when they are in their adult life to be able to do the things that maybe not everybody can. And I credit my ability to walk into my boss's office and ask politely, but clearly and concisely exactly what I wanted. I've since received a second promotion after that because, again, I was able to have a conversation with my boss to figure out the best solution to what our department was facing. And I thought, well, I can do this, but I want to do it in this way. And so rather than just giving me a straight promotion, I negotiated what kind of pay I was looking for, negotiated the promotion itself, and I was able to get exactly what I was looking for out of that situation. And again, that is because of what I did in middle and high school. In addition to what I do to kind of pay the bills and pay my mortgage in this wonderful house that I recently purchased, I'm also really involved in politics. So I am really involved in the Democratic Party, and this is not to make things political. I know I've got Ruth Bader Ginsburg behind me, but I'm really involved in the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. I hold multiple leadership positions, including being the vice chair for the Women's Caucus and the Secretary Treasurer of the LGBTQIA plus caucus. I'm also the 5th Congressional District Chair. So I am literally chairing meetings on a regular basis. I have watched people chair meetings, and it is a skill. It is something that you need to learn how to do. It is not something that you just can inherently do. I think there are some people that are naturally good at things and some people who are naturally not as good, but either way, it is a skill that you must hone. It is not something that you just can walk into a room and do. You need to be able to plan the meeting. You need to be able to think on the fly, because the meeting almost never goes exactly the way you think it's going to go. And you need to be able to control a room. And these are all things that I learned how to do in the various activities that I did, especially in debate, I would say, but definitely in speech as well. As I mentioned, I did a lot of the impromptu and extemporaneous speaking. And I think that those things have really lent themselves to some of these activities that I've done politically, because you do kind of have to think on your feet. You might have an outline for an extemporaneous speech, but you're thinking on your feet. You have to really go through everything that you want to say, make sure that you're coming up with a clear format, and making sure that you hit all of the points that you want to say. But you might be thrown curveballs, and that's true in debate as well, right? You never know what somebody might ask you. You don't know what somebody's going to raise their hand and just start speaking, and you're like, this is not on the agenda, this isn't germane, and you're pulling out parliamentary procedure that, again, Mr. Jacoby was always handing out his little books of Robert's Rules of Order and everything, which has paid dividends, literally, because in my involvement through politics, I was asked by my community members. They said, you know all about the city, you're involved in politics, you know how this works, you should run for office. And I was like, I'm never going to run for office. I'm behind the scenes. I do the stuff, that people aren't really paying that much attention to. But people kept asking me. And so I finally decided in 2021 that I would do that. And I knew that I couldn't do it without honing my skills. So again, because of the experiences that I had in middle school and high school, knowing, okay, I might be naturally a pretty good speaker, but you need to practice. You need to make sure you learn how to do something before you just jump in and do it. So I actually did take a class on how to run for office. And one of the things that I loved about that class is that we all had different skill sets. We all came at this from different places. And I was often complimented on my ability to speak. And again, you're in a classroom setting, so it's not like you have a speech prepared. You're speaking, on the fly, just saying what you need to say, and coming up with something quickly. And so that's where that speech and forensics and debate experience really comes into play for me, was that I was able to participate and really do a good job in that class. After that, I formed my entire campaign on my own. I won my primary. I won, which included absolutely clobbering the incumbent. And then I then won the general election as well. I just ran for office in the spring, in April, and I ran again against the same challenger that I ran against 3 years ago, and I won by an even larger margin. I think that I owe a lot of that to the fact that I am not just answering the phone for constituents and helping them out, but I carry myself very well when I'm in council chambers and in some of my committee meetings and things like that. I'm able to speak on an issue without saying constantly, without having to seem like I don't know what's going on or looking down and constantly reading what I have to say. I'm able to give a really articulate, well thought out answer, and really speak to the various issues that come up before us without getting lost in what I have to say. So I think that people are really paying attention to that and they can see that I'm doing a good job. Because of that, my colleagues have also voted for me to be the Common Council president for 2 years in a row. So I'm currently serving in my second term as Common Council president. And I've recently made the decision to run for mayor of Waukesha. I'm 36 years old. If I am elected, I will be a 36-year-old mayor who is a speech, debate, forensics, theater alum. And again, I don't think that I ever would have considered it. And I know that I wouldn't be successful if it weren't for the lessons that I learned in Mr. Jacoby's class with Mr. Jacoby and Mrs. Washbush from middle school, who helped me out and really put me on this path. So this is something that I am really passionate about. I'm ready to make this my full-time job. This is the purpose of the mayor. We have actually a strong administrator type city government, which means that I'm going to be doing a lot, if assuming I get elected, knock on wood. If I get elected, I would be doing a lot of ceremonial functions, a lot of speeches, a lot of really being the face of the city. And I'm really excited to do that. This is exactly what students who do these programs can do as adults. And this is what I want to do. I'm so excited to do this. And I can see how everything that I have done in my entire adult life has been credited back to those experiences that I had during my classes with Mr. Jacoby and Mrs. Washbush back in middle school. And I thank you. I can see you smiling there, Mr. Jacoby. It truly is, you have no idea what it has meant to me to really have all of those experiences and know how much that has meant at every single moment in my adult life. So thank you for that. This is not just to gas them up. I promise. It really is true. I would not have been able to be where I am today. I wouldn't have been able to have a mortgage at 36 years old. How many millennials can say that, right? No, I didn't pay cash for my house. Who can in this market, right? But at least I was able to buy a house. I'm not stuck in a rental cycle. So I make, good money. I'm successful. I like to think of myself as successful at least. And I feel like I still have so much more to do. And again, that's entirely due to these experiences. And I'm not saying don't go to English class, don't go to history class, right? I was a history major in college. Those things matter too. I think everyone needs to be a well-rounded individual. But if you are able to have those experiences so that you can have good conversations, so that you are able to carry yourself well and with confidence, that's the big thing, right? You can't teach confidence, but you can instill confidence in students. And I think that's what I really got out of it. So there's these little skills, but it's the confidence level that I've gotten because of those moments. And I've been able to build on that, right? So I'm not sitting there thinking, I'm running for mayor because Mr. Jacoby said I was good at something once upon a time, right? But it's because Mr. Jacoby told me I was good at something that I was able to do one thing, and then I was able to build on that and really give myself a great future. And I think I have so much more to give, so much more to do, but it's all built on that foundation of speech and debate and theater. So I'm happy to take any questions for any folks. Or I know Mr. Jacoby, you said 5 to 10 minutes, but I wanted to make sure that if anybody did have anything that they wanted to ask, that I had time for that as well. So back to you, Mr. Jacoby.
Well, I'm going to let you keep the floor for a few minutes since you've planned for it. So go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone have any questions?
Folks, you can use the raise hand function and we'll call on you or just pop something in the chat, whatever's easier for you, and we'll address it.
Yeah, let me see if I can get this chat pulled up here.
And I've got it too, just in case somebody.
Oh, wonderful. All right.
And if we don't have any questions, I would like to I'd just like to piggyback. First of all, thank you for those kind words.
Of course.
I totally wasn't expecting that, but I think the golden nugget in everything I heard you say is just when you're a teacher, a coach of young people, and you sow those seeds, you never know what kind of beautiful plant they will blossom into over time, and the roots that you spread and connections that you make. So I am just so gosh darn proud of you and everything that you've done and how you're taking everything that you learned in room 104 and
Yes,
applying it,
104.
on a regular basis. So I'm very grateful for that. And I really appreciate your time today. to just kind of fire us up and remind the educators on this call why what we do matters. So, oh, here we
Yeah.
have a question. Oh, yeah, I was going to ask that. So Margie, thank you for that. If this is live streamed and recorded, could we use bits or all of your speaking here to promote our forensics programs at some point in the future? Or, and I'm going to add to that, or even play for students, current students, to let them know what this could yield in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no issues with that. Feel free to take any of my words. If you want to use the recording or just convey that to other people, I'm happy to say that's totally fine.
Awesome. And what I may do on my end is edit and just your testimony as a video resource for coaches. So thank you, Margie, for asking that.
Wonderful. Did anyone else have any questions for me or anything they'd like to say? I guess I was really good at my speech then. Thanks
Yeah,
for
that's all I
sugarcoat
was
me for
saying.
one more thing.
All right. Well, Allie, thank you again. Speaking of presiding over meetings, it is now my privilege to introduce to you a man who became the president of the WISDA board recently and just assumed that office. Dwayne Draper is the WISDA District 10 chair representing Southwestern Wisconsin and is a retired teacher, recently retired and theater director and speech coach at Barneveld High School. So, Dwayne, take it away.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the 25-26 season. We are so thrilled that you all joined us today. Thanks for taking time. We know it's hard during the school year, but we wanted to get an opportunity to welcome you and to show you some exciting things that we're going to do this year. I wanted to say thank you to all of our coaches and adjudicators because you're the heart of our organization. We can't do this without you, and you're our connection to the students. And we know how many extra hours it takes. And so we're thrilled that you do that. And we hope maybe this year, as you listen to this presentation today, maybe you'll pick up another activity. Maybe you're the theater coach and you'd like to pick up speech or learn about debate or film or find a friend at school who will do one of those because we have a lot more activities available and we'd love to have you be involved in those and your schools to be involved in them too. Just take a moment today to let you know that on the call today, there are quite a few district chairs and section chairs. Those are your direct links. So whenever you have a question or you have a concern or you're not quite sure what to do or you can't find something on the website, talk to them first because they are the people that you'll see on a regular basis. And they're also a way that we can help keep the state office doing their work and we can interact with you directly. So if you're not sure who they are, you can find them on the website. And they're all here to help you. They're a great group of people. They're the people who are at the meetings. They're really, their heart and soul is speech and theater and film and debate. So take an opportunity to work with them. A special shout out to our consultants. I know a couple of them are here today. We're really excited. We have almost a full set of consultants for the first time in a long time. So we are really excited. These are the people who advise us in our activities. They run our sort of summer meetings when we're trying to plan for the next year. You're going to learn about some of the things they've created for us for this year. So we're really happy to have them and we thank them for their time. And of course, a special shout out to Adam and to Julie, who I don't think's on the call today, but there are two people who keep everything running all year long. They answer the phones, they answer the emails, they make all the mailings, they put together all the things on the website, and we really wouldn't be able to do that, our activities, without them. So big thanks to Adam and Julie. And without further ado, welcome back. And Adam, on with the show.
Indeed.
Adam,
Thank
can
you,
I,
Dwayne.
Adam, is it
Yeah.
possible for me to just jump on to something that Dwayne said, and that is asking the people here that even if you're one act directors, you're not doing forensics and you can't see that added to your plate, could I encourage all of you to talk to people in your building who might possibly be interested in taking on forensics or something like that? We're definitely looking for coaches in those areas. And again, as Dwayne said, you're our connection to the schools and to our students. So I would like to encourage you, please also try to promote our activities with your staff. We'd appreciate that.
Thank you. Really great suggestion, Pam. All right, we're going to move on to season highlights. Let me just bring this up. And this is where I'll just share a few rules changes and exciting developments that we have. And then, so this is the point where, especially those of you active educators who are coaching, directing, and whatnot, may have questions. So make sure you write those down and note those, because questions not asked are the only bad questions in this case. So we start the season with theater, and we're opening online registration on SpeechWire this week. So we're excited for our 1X season coming up. After a few years of using points, kind of like we do in speech, across different evaluation criteria, we looked at the data from that, and we realized that it wasn't really achieving what we set out to achieve. And actually, what it did was, at the state festival, it resulted in awards inflation. And there's a lot of feedback from theater directors across the state that the awards seemed too easy to get in theater. There was a mindset in many cases where, particularly in the technical elements of a production, the scenery, the set pieces, costuming, makeup, those kinds of things, that as long as you weren't making a mistake, you were going to win an award, even if it wasn't for a meritorious job done in those particular areas. So we're returning to an open nomination system, both for advancing from the district level to sectional, from sectional to state, and then for awards at state. However, we did add an area based on feedback at the Theater Advisory Committee for adjudicators to articulate reasons for their recommendation to advance or stop, or for particular awards at state, to just really help a director and their cast and crew understand what the rationale for that decision was. So actually, that has been a long practice and debate. So we're actually taking some inspiration from one activity and applying it to another. We continue to support Thespies. If you don't know what that is, for all the speech coaches on the call, and there's 27 of you who answered the poll as being speech and 8 as being theater. This is where I want just the speech coaches to listen up for a moment. Thespies are individual, pair, or small group categories that are of theatrical nature. So there's monologue, there's a duet acting, there's musical performance, there are costume design portfolio, there's stage management. So all of the technical presentations are like informative speeches, and you have to have a visual aid and talk about what you would do from that standpoint. So speech coaches, if you have kids who are theatrically inclined, you can participate in our open online, exclusively online practice thespies next month, where you submit videos and get feedback for those students and give them an extra opportunity to do something. Might just be a way of keeping their skills sharpened. For theater coaches or directors, if you have kids who want a little extra enrichment, particularly those backstage kids who are doing technical theater, the Thespies are an excellent opportunity. And I will pop a link in the chat as soon as I stop sharing, to where you can learn more about Thespies. And then our new theater activity consultant, Christy Ross Clausen, who is one of the nation's most respected experts in theater safety and in technical theater education, and we're lucky to have her in Wisconsin, is developing a pilot lighting and sound plot resource that we will be sharing with schools. Just to like encapsulate this in a quick elevator speech, it means that even if you don't have a sophisticated light board or soundboard system at your school, particularly those schools that have a cafetorium or a gymnatorium or an all-purpose space where you're performing for groups, this will help you, like virtual reality, understand how those lighting and sound choices can be made as cues, and familiarize your students with the technology they will invariably use at the state festival for sure when we're at university campuses, but perhaps even at the sectional level, or even some of the district festivals that have that hold their events in performing arts centers with more sophisticated equipment. So we're really excited about that. Watch your inbox for more details about that. Debate. We didn't have we had two people on the call identify as debate, so we're happy to have you there. I know I saw at least one who I've known has participated the past several years as we've piloted the weeknight online rounds of debate or word festivals. And this is again applying something we've learned from our speech festivals, which typically happen in many parts of the state on weeknights, especially at the sub-district level, as being accessible and easier for kids to participate in. The online portion is something that we learned from COVID. Debate is probably one of the easiest things to do online because you often have a small group of kids who are debating against each other. And so what a lot of schools will do is the teacher will just reserve a few classrooms and put team A in one classroom here, team B in a classroom here, team C over here, and then they connect and debate with the teams from the other schools that are participating through Zoom. So it just lasts a couple of hours. The World Schools format is one of the fastest growing and I think easiest formats for kids to wrap their heads around. It is not the super rigorous format of debate that you may have heard about when you were in high school. So it's more accessible. It's practiced worldwide. There are two formats within Worlds. There's an impromptu round where the students get we ahead of the tournament or the festival, we send out a general topic area like homework, for example. And then right when their preparation period begins, each team gets an hour and they're given the full topic. Oops. And the topic might be something like this house believes homework has more utility than contributes to stress of students. And then the students have an hour to brainstorm their response to that. They are not able to research online in live time. They can use a dictionary for any terms they may not be familiar with, but we design the topics to be accessible, for high school and even middle level students to be able to wrap their heads around and just to be able to draw on their own knowledge and then debate logically based on that. And then there's three kids on a team and they set up their case and they can ask questions during the speeches and then they give a closing argument and then the judge debates or the judge decides which team did a better job debating, but each of the kids is awarded points just like in speech. And that helps contribute to determining who gets to go on to the state level contest, which is held in conjunction with the State Speech Festival at UW-Madison in April. So it's worked out really well. Congressional debate is another format that Alicia actually did in high school as well. And that's where the students act as if they're members of Congress and they debate bills for and against. And you have about 12 kids in a room at a time online just for ease of seeing everybody. And those work well. We're doing a whole info session on that tomorrow, same time, different Zoom, from 4 to 5 p.m. So if you want to learn more, please sign up to join. It's on the debate page on the WISDAA website, just wisda.org/debate. And there's a sign up button in the upper right-hand corner of that page. If you can't make it, we will be posting that webinar on that page after tomorrow. Let's talk about film. Film is the activity that's the newest, and we don't happen to have anyone on the call tonight that's identified as a film advisor, but there are elements of both our theater activities as well as speech. So we often think of films and movies as being inherently narrative and dramatic in nature and very similar to what we see on a live stage, but they're pre-recorded and we watch after they've been edited and put together and sometimes with special effects added and all those kinds of things. But these are short films. They're about 5 minutes long, so they're very brief. There's short documentaries, newscasts, animations, other formats. There's a demonstration short film where you can show how to cook something like on the Food Network, or you could show how to do something else. So hint, hint, speech coaches, you could have one of your info demo kids do a speech and an abbreviated one because they're shorter for film, and get some early feedback on that. So it's a great way to kind of cross your kids over into new media to allow them to be creative. The whole idea for this actually came when my youngest son came home from middle school one day and said his science homework was to film science in our backyard. And so we took a little walk outside and he took his phone and he just filmed. And then he had to edit it on iMovie on his device and had a lot of fun doing that and telling a story through doing that. And it was just a short film, just a great way for kids to be creative and have a lot of fun. We know that there's a lot of film classes, or there's classes in broadcasting or other kinds of new media at school. So if you have a colleague who's doing this kind of work with kids, encourage them to have their kids submit to our film festival. It's a great way for them to get some exposure and some accolades for their work, and to get evaluated by other people from other schools. So we will be shooting out an invitation to submit in early January. So those first semester film courses can do it while it's fresh. And then we'll also do another wave in early April. And we're working with UW to do a screening as part of their creative communication department that runs the Wisconsin Film Festival proper. So we're really excited to work with our partners there. Next up, middle level speech. We have a new committee in place. We had a number of people step forward as volunteers to be part of that effort, and we're really excited about that. One of the charges that they've been asked to look at based on feedback from past coach surveys, and because we have a number of coaches who advise both their middle and high school programs, is to figure out where we can have better alignment while still keeping true to what the pre-adolescent child in middle level grades needs in terms of where they are in their learning and development. And the ribbons that we offer at each level have been really popular, so we're excited to continue doing that. High school speech. Okay, this is where we have a few functional changes, but also not really, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So we are moving from 5 to 4 evaluation criteria. And what that means is, so instead of, a sheet that has 5 areas and 5 places to indicate points and write comments under, that has been slimmed down to 4. So you'll give points in 4 areas, you'll give comments in 4 areas, and we'll still keep the 5-point scale because the initial feedback that we got through the process. And a special shout out to our speech contest consultant, Dr. Jill Prushik, retired from UW Eau Claire, who shepherded the committee through the process in a deep dive and looking at this in several iterations and everything else. What we're going to do in order to make sure that everybody's comfortable with this and aware of this is if your certification happens to expire this month, then you will see all of this reflected in the new renewal course anyway. If your speech adjudicator certification for the high school level is not expiring this month, we will be temporarily suspending it, sending you access to a free course where you'll just log in, look at the new sheets really quick, and just acknowledge that you're aware that those changes are made. So there's no surprises going into the upcoming season starting in February. In terms of logistics, with up to 20 points per round, that did require us to adjust or calibrate the cut scores to move on. So it's now a 13 to advance from subdistrict to district, a 17 to advance from district to state, and then at state, 20 points equals a gold, just like 25 did previously. 18 to 19 points will be silver, 15 to 17 will be bronze, and 4 to 14 will be copper. If you have any students who had earned gold 3 years prior, as long as they earn a gold this year, doesn't matter what the point level was this year compared to last year, all they have to do is earn the gold to get the cumulative gold medallion that we hand out. And then there's just a few other rules changes. There is an optional content trigger warning protocol that we've included in the rules, and we'll be detailing that a little bit more in an upcoming speech newsletter. So watch your inbox for that. And then all of the reading categories, so Farrago, group interpretive reading, poetry reading, and prose reading, will now allow creative usage of the manuscript as a prop. So whether you have your students using a small 5x8 binder, or they have scripts mounted on construction paper, they can just suggest almost ethereally movements that might imagine that manuscript as a prop. So one creative thing I've seen students do, and I'm just going to grab a book off my bookshelf here, is to hold their binder. I guess I have to hold it in front of me, and then they type on it almost as if it's like a little laptop, right? Or they're like holding the book as a shield or something like that. It's just fun. We've seen a lot of creative blocking or movement in group interpretive reading already over the past decade plus years. So this is just kind of an outgrowth of that. For some background, this is a protocol in almost every other state of the United States. I meet with my NFHS state activities administrator colleagues for speech on a regular basis, and we share best practices and things like this. And we've often heard feedback from families moving to Wisconsin when they have encountered the more restrictive rules against creative manuscript usage, that their kids have been used to doing it a different way. Likewise, if any of our students ever have the desire to take what they've learned during their season here and extend it into some of the national competitions that are available in speech, it is in line with those. Does that mean your kid has to use their manuscript creatively as a prop? No, they can read from it. They can be more traditional in their performance, and that shouldn't be subject to critique, right? It's their choice. But if they're using it creatively to convey something, then that's the difference there. And we will make that guidance very clear to adjudicators. But because it's a major functional change in performance style, we wanted to alert you to that. And then finally, we are excited to offer a pilot at this year's State Speech Festival. We've been asking for a couple of years about interest in having a panel of adjudicators at State. This comes from a lot of feedback that we've had in surveys after State, where there's been a lot of frustration with the one judge holding all of the power, even though at every other contest level prior, there's different rounds and different adjudicators. And so it seems to put a lot of power and subjective power in the hands of one person. We have heard and we appreciate the feedback that, well, that's part of the game, and you should be able to impress one adjudicator. So we do hear that dissenting opinion on that as well. But here's the deal with extemporaneous speech and radio news reporting at State Speech. As many of you are aware, UW-Madison, and in fact the entire UW system, has imposed a number of youth protection requirements, among them including that there cannot be an adult and a student in a room by just the two of them at one time. There has to be more people, which is an accountability and safety measure for young people. So we thought, well, if we're going to pilot this, let's do it with those two categories, so we don't have to do what we did last year, where we put them in a large lecture hall room at stations, and it was just a little jarring for both the contestants and the adjudicators. So this fixes that too. For the purposes of this pilot, we will be taking the higher of the two scores granted by the adjudicators. That doesn't mean that that will be the standard going forward. And if we figure out a way to make this work across the board in all categories without putting a lot of burden on schools in terms of bringing adjudicators, which is part of why we're not jumping right into this, then we will look at different models like an average or a score total or something like that, so, to determine what awards they get. So this is just a pilot to see how it works, and we'll take the larger of the two scores in that round. Okay, so now we open for questions and answers. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see people. I see the chat's been active, so
Hi, Adam. We have a couple. I was able to answer some for
Perfect.
people, but there's a couple questions here that I thought were better if you answered them. So the
Yeah.
first one was, I have several students who want to take our debate club, in quotes, to the next level. I don't know how their current advisor feels about that. Who is the Zoom open to tomorrow? Would students be able to access that if I could wrangle some? And since the question was asked earlier about speech and theater, and I answered that, how many students do you need for a debate team?
Ah, well, you technically only need one student for a debate team, so I'll answer the last question first because it's easiest. And they can be congressional debater, or you can have a team of three students who works together on in World Schools debate. If you have fewer than three, and every so often we have a school that plans on three, and then a kid gets sick at the last minute or something else, and then the remaining two kids kind of pick up the slack. So we're fairly flexible with that. Anybody is welcome tomorrow. I mean, even parents, if you have a parent who's been pestering you about debate and wants to learn how it works, they're certainly welcome to join. Um, and so, yeah, I think I answered all those questions, Dwayne.
Thank you.
And I'm always happy to talk to a teacher in a one-on-one phone call too.
Let me
I'm
know if you
Adam.
don't like this method, but I'll go ahead and ask one more from the list that came up. When will adjudicator online training be available?
Um, Theater training will be available tomorrow, and speech training will be available the last week of September. So that's next week. We're just finishing off the videos, which take time.
I'd like to, if I could, just, and this refers back to the last question, when talking about parents coming in. Again, I'm going to encourage you that when my son was in debate, we actually had, it was a parent that was the coach. He was a lawyer. So some of you may have connections with people who aren't necessarily in the building, but have some talent in that area, and they may be interested in encouraging students to get in those areas too. So if you know some parents, again, I'm going to encourage you all to help us reach out to those people.
Adam, you want to talk a little bit about one question that came up was we talked about the individual medals. Could you talk about the team recognition at speech and theater?
Yeah. So I'll start theater just because that season's coming up sooner. So in theater, the entire school is evaluated as a group, as their play, and appraised for how well they do. And in theater, once you get to state, every school that advances to state, and it's not always easy to get to state, but every school that advances to state will at minimum be honored with the All-State Award as a school. There are select schools that the adjudication panels deem worthy of the Critics' Choice Award, and that is a slightly higher level of award. If you earn All-State, every student, every cast and crew member that you've registered as being part of your theatrical company gets a medal, and for All-State, it's a silver medal. And if they get Critics' Choice, every student gets a gold medal. And then we have continued giving medal pins to the directors, just like we do with speech coaches at State Speech. So that's how that works. For speech, obviously every entry and every student in every entry gets a medal based on their score, which I covered in that slide earlier. Depending on, so what happens then is our software adds up collectively all of the medals that your squad, your school earns at the State Speech Festival. And that's collective of both in-person and if you have some virtual kids. So we have to kind of hold off until the virtual adjudicating is done. So we have the total number of medal count for all the schools. And then the schools, we don't comparatively rank, but the schools that are in the top 5%, so they just have to get into that threshold, those schools get the Excellence in Speech Award, and that's an additional plaque that goes to the school. The school gets a large form plaque with the WISDAA logo etched in wood. It's actually really beautiful. And then there's like a gold backing to a black plaque with the school's information on it. And then the coach also gets a smaller version of the plaque that commemorates their work as a coach for earning that award. And then a few years ago, we added the Distinction in Speech Award, which is for people who are in the 6 to 10% bracket, just because state speech is so massive, 300 schools, right? So that has been well received, and those, we have some very small, rural, remote schools who do exceedingly well in earning some of those school awards at the State Speech Festival. So it's just a matter of recruiting a good number of young people to be part of your speech program. And in my experience as a speech coach, the best thing I ever did was to get my school administration on my side and to really help me hype it up and to hype it up with my colleague teachers who would recommend kids come and meet me and join my team because they were gabby and they had opinions and were very expressive, and the teachers knew that they would make good speech kids. So that's it's a numbers game, and so if you have a larger squad of kids participating, that will yield better results in terms of school wins.
I'm assuming most of you probably have been looking at the chat, but if you haven't, just to clarify, for the extemp and radio pilot, students will still only be performing once.
Oh yeah.
The judges, the two judges will be in the same room, and this way we can put them in a room. And also they won't be like conversing with each other ahead of time. They'll just be evaluating separately and submitting their score separately based on what they see from the performance.
Joe, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Just a little bit of clarification, if you could, please, on the binders being used as props. Now, does that include decorating the binders, like color coordinating or putting verbiage along the binders? Where do you stand on that?
So Jill answered this in the chat already, and her answer is the gold standard. If the rules are
Sorry,
silent
Joe, I
on
missed that.
something, if the rules are silent on something, they're not expressly allowed, but they're not prohibited either. And I could imagine an adjudicator saying the bedazzling of your binder was a little distracting, but that's not really something, that's not a question they're evaluating under the evaluation criteria. And Jill will tell you her committee spent hours poring over those questions to make them as clear and concise and thoughtful and thorough as possible so that, so it's not something subject to critique. And the nice thing about WISDA is the students aren't being compared to one another. So as long as they're meeting the standards in the evaluation criteria, if they're going to bedazzle their binder, they can bedazzle their binder. But that we're not going to take any opinion on that until somebody asks us to consider it as a rule.
My apologies, Jill. I didn't see your response in the chat.
These are some great questions, y'all. And great answers in the chat. Thank you, colleagues. Any other questions? Yeah, we do love your questions. These are great. Ooh, this is a good one here. Huh. And having had tough Mondays myself, Marlene, I appreciate the sentiment there. This is something we've discussed on occasion. I will tell you statistically, there are very few kids that earn the copper anyway because it falls below the threshold of what it takes to qualify to the state festival. But there are categories like extemp, impromptu, radio, where each day and each contest is its own little animal, and those kids can have bad days, and a solo actor could like just fumble and forget what they've memorized, and so there's some degree of unpredictability that happens with a live contest, and I think that's where copper comes into place, or somebody just to maybe they just got really inflated scores prior to state, and then, state was tougher. So but yeah, that is something we've discussed, and that's something certainly that you can, as you ruminate on it more, you can share with Dr. Prushik and our speech committee, because, we're always looking for ways to improve.
Adam, I also just want to mention to everybody that for anyone who is a new coach here, we are just finishing a new handbook for coaches, and we're very excited about it. Judine, I saw her on here, and Judine, Brian, and I have been putting together. We're kind of geeky about this because we think this is really cool, but it's very down to earth. Just really good tips from a lot of people who are on, on here. But we're talking about how to actually coach. And the really neat thing that Judine is putting together too is she's also recording short coaching sessions that she's done with her students. And then we're giving also posting sample performances, beginning performances. So I think if you're a new coach or a first year coach and you're still having a lot of questions, that'll be coming in probably another month. And we'll be putting it online, and you can use that as a great resource. So a lot of good hands-on, very basic stuff that I wish someone would have done for me. So we're excited about that resource coming too. So look forward to that.
Thank you, Jill. And I'll just add, as part of building that, and creating the whole vision for it, uh, Jill found that there aren't really any video guidances on coaching sessions. So we're kind of a pioneering organization for showing how you might spend time during a coaching session, in providing that. So I'm super excited about that. I think that'll be a great resource. And that also reminds me, particularly if you've had students video record their performances in the past in speech, we would love that, contributions of videos for a video library, just as samples, especially for new coaches or even for experienced coaches, to show their students examples of what a particular category looks like. So there is a submission thing on the WISDAA website on the front page, but we'll also include that in an upcoming speech newsletter with instructions on how to submit those videos, because we would love to have that. And it doesn't have to be a polished end of season, state level performance. It could be beginning, because those also work really well for our adjudicator training workshops, to show works in progress, so that there's something to actually evaluate and to critique. So any other questions as we near the 5 o'clock hour? Oh, one other thought that was lingering there with what I just said. A best practice both for theater and speech, that I've heard from coaches and directors over the years is, ahead of whatever contest level festival you're going to, recording a practice or rehearsal performance of your students, just in case something happens. And that way, if there's a massive snowstorm, or half of your cast gets COVID, and which is going around again, or heaven forbid something else happens, and your school is closed off and you're not allowed to go to a contest, you could then submit that video that you have already proactively made, as part of virtual options that we offer, to be evaluated asynchronously. So just always keep that in mind as an option. It should be a backup, because we know there's no substitute for the in-person contests and for the kids getting to know each other from different schools, and all of the social emotional benefits that we get from bringing everybody together. But it is a good insurance policy in case something goes wrong. Yeah. And that handbook should be coming out within a few days too, for high school speech. Julie in our office has been going through with a fine-tooth comb to proofread. Okay, well, we are at 5 o'clock. I wanted to just share the results just for interest purposes of our poll that we took at the beginning of the meeting. So you can see now people could answer, multiple areas, both for activities. So 8 of 31 who answered at the time were theater people. 2 out of 31 identified as doing debate. 27 out of 31 identified speech, which all of that tracks with the participation levels across those activities in our organization. And then 29 out of 31 identified as high school level, with 6 out of 31 as being at the middle level. So thank you for all the work you do with young people to inspire them, to share their truths, their creativity, and all of the great things that we have in WISDAA activities this year. And Dwayne just put a closing message in the chat if you didn't see it. But I just want to close and take a privilege here for a moment to just call out the board members who are on the call, the district chairs, the section chairs, the activity consultants, because the passion they bring in terms of the leadership and vision and policy making that they do as a board, that our committees do, is just such a great thing. It fills my cup to work with such passionate humans and to facilitate these activities for all of you. So thank you for being part of our community and for logging on tonight. All right. Bye, everyone.